Hey there, everybody. How are you doing today? I am so glad that you've taken time out of your schedule to join us. We're going to talk about live chat today. I did a promotional video for this webinar recently, and I opened it all up staring at the lens saying chatbots. And I just let it hang. How do you feel about that? And I was actually shocked, in all honesty, the engagement I got just on that one video. So clearly, we've hit an interesting topic here. Every single month, we like to have the second Tuesday of the month be what we call VanillaSoft University. Maybe there's an in-house term, but it's all about talking about the technology that's shaping today's industry, and just we kind of drill down on it. And the whole objective is just to share what we ourselves learn about it with you. So it's actually a fun webinar series because it's totally self-serving. We kind of look at ourselves and say, what do we want to learn about? So I hope you have as much fun today as I'm going to have. So it's an in-depth chat about live chat. So let's get this party started. If you're listening, the ground rules are pretty straightforward. We are recording this, so that's kind of cool. That means that you're going to get a link shortly. You can watch it on demand whenever you want to. You're on silent, so we can't hear you, but we do want to hear from you, of course. And how you're going to do that is you're going to actually do it one of two ways. You're going to send us your messages on @VanillaSoft, which we're monitoring, or you can use just the chat window you see in front of you to physically type in your messages, and we'll respond to that. Actually, that's the most common way. So that's how you talk to us. And then as the questions come in, we'll share them throughout the crowd. I want to introduce you to my subject matter expert. Every single time we do these, because we're looking for answers ourselves, we're not necessarily the subject matter experts. In fact, I like to say we're just dangerous, sometimes stupid, sometimes optimistic, but often looking to be schooled by those who are far wiser than we are. And I have to tell you, the individual we're bringing in today is Justin McDonald. He's a smart cookie when it comes to all things chat. So what makes him a smart cookie? Well, he is in fact the CEO of Ramble Chat, R-A-M-B-L-E, Ramble Chat. And if you're wondering, that is a leading chat and messaging platform. They're based actually out of Atlanta, Georgia. If you're following all the funding news, it seems like Atlanta is getting money hand over fist, nonstop, every day. It's another company getting more money because that has become a real hotbed of innovation. And Ramble Chat is no different. He himself, he's got a ton of experience, almost 15 years of experience in the SaaS market. So he understands, shall we say, the industry. He understands how things have evolved. He understands the technology. And he's also, ironically, really involved in the Atlanta technology scene. So with that, I'm going to bring Justin onto the show. Justin, my friend, welcome to the show from sunny, I'm assuming sunny Atlanta?
Hey, Daryl. Slightly cloudy, but mostly sunny. So great to be here.
Well, that's fantastic. All right. So we're going to get the show going, and let's just kind of chat. Let's kind of set the stage. Let's chat about live chat. All right. So what I want to, I guess, where do I start? Feel free to jump in here. There are vendor claims being made that you can get over 500% increase in leads if you use the chatbots, because properly done, the chats are almost picking up the low-hanging fruit. People are going to your website and they're there, and the chatbot can pop up. So it's not a sales rep calling them. It's not an email. It's not a social. It's a completely different channel. And that these people would otherwise be ignored. That's the first part. Second part is it's all about optimization, right? So the premise being it's a bot first and foremost. So the chatbot pops up. You might think it's from a real human being. They might have a picture of a real human being there. I've also seen other companies in the space where they've got, pictures of little robots or something. So it's not really a human being just yet. And the whole premise is they're going to greet you and it's going to be contextual. So if you're on the homepage of a site, it'd be, hey, welcome to our site. If you're on the pricing page, it might be, hey, are you looking to make a decision now? Let's talk about your options. If you're on the blog page, it could be something else. You're on the resources page, could be something else. If you're on a case study page, could be, hey, you want to talk to this person live? We can make that happen, whatever you want it to be. And you can have what's called scripts or conversations. The idea being that as you answer, the questions in the script, and you have a certain number of each question has defined answers, that it's literally qualifying you or trying to direct you to where it thinks you want to go. Maybe you end up talking to a real person when the time is right. Maybe you get redirected because maybe you're there for support as opposed to becoming a customer, or maybe you're just wanting a piece of content, so it gives you the right personalized piece of content. Or maybe it says, hey, thanks, I'm here if you ever need me, if you change your mind, I'm here. And at any point in time, the theory is that a human being can jump in and take control, and away you go. And that's just all on the website. That's what's got the buzz. So did I nail that right? I mean, because we're going to go into, how it works and how it can be applied and what's the future of it. But did I get that right? Or would you describe it differently? Is the value prop different? What's all the buzz for? Why should I care?
Sure. No, I think you framed it up well. I think you described the subset of chatbots, which is a subset of the underlying live chat market well. But I think if we go back to the core reason or need why chat has become so popular in the sales process is that buyer behavior is changing. People want what they want at that moment of interest. Instant gratification is this new market standard. And so companies are trying to meet the challenge for this underlying prospect need, right? And it could be B2B, it could be B2C, but chat is the answer to that, right? And so, 15 years ago in the SaaS market, web submission forms were popular. It was really the only means of communication outside of an email, outside of picking up the phone. So chat becomes this metaphor, a tool, a channel in which companies can deploy it to make it much more easy for the prospect or the customer to engage with that particular business. So Salesforce just did a study that said 80% of buyers expect companies to respond in real time. So there's study after study, and you kind of insinuated some of those overblown studies as it relates to the ROI. But chat is here to stay. We're getting more and more data as it relates to the value it brings to the business, and I look forward to chatting about both the benefits of chatbots as well as humans. Right? I think the magic bullet is one of the biggest challenges that businesses have today is how much bot, how much AI do we put in place, and at what point do we bring a human on? So talking through that and the spectrum between human, sales rep, as well as bot is something that the market continues to struggle with. So.
And we're going to actually talk a little bit about that, the difference between, bot and human, text and voice recognition, for lack of a better word. And please correct me if I'm not using the right terminology. As we go through, I know we specifically have a discussion near the end. We're talking about the future. What does the future hold for this? But I got to ask you, if I listen to some of the chatbot vendors, and you yourself, you guys have a technology that does a lot of the same things. They'll claim that no one's using the forums right now and no one's really responding to emails, and that chat is the only logical way to connect with people anymore. So that's one of their claims. I guess to me, I cry BS. I view it as just another channel. There's phone, there's email, there's social, there's chat. And, my wife can't stand chat. She'd rather do email or phone. Whereas myself, I'll jump onto the chat, but I'm kind of getting conditioned these days that a lot of times the people on the other end of the chat, they have a superficial level of understanding. So that's not a technology issue, but that is I'm being conditioned as a user of a chat bot that I'm going to get a very surface level piece of information, piece of education. Sure. Therefore, that might cause me to not engage with chat. What are you seeing as far as user adoption and user behavior? So if I take the vendor pitch off, what are you seeing, pros and cons, and how are people reacting to it?
So great question. I think you need to take a diverse approach. The assertion that chat is the end all be all is not accurate, right? Every buyer is different. Every market, every vertical is different. Folks in APAC and EMEA may have different behaviors than folks in North America. So I think having a diverse lead capture or customer interaction or channel is the way to go. So are web submission forms dying by the vine? Slightly. Are people preferring chat over submitting information in emails? They want a quick conversation. I would say yes, more buyers prefer that. But if I'm a business and we do the same thing with our company, having web submission forms, having email, having chat, I think all three with a diverse approach is the way to go. So there's still a place for web submission forms, but most buyers tend to bypass those.
All right, so we have changing buyers want change your expectations, and that's the catalyst for why you might want to consider chat. Because the last thing you want to do is fundamentally, I guess, put it simply, is you don't want to ignore that segment of the audience that does prefer chat, because that could be your next deal. So why wouldn't you make that investment to give them one more way to connect with you? Because in the end, isn't that what we want, right? We want to actually connect with our prospects, we want to connect with our customers, and if that's how they want to talk, then that's how we'll talk. Let's talk about what's going to be covered in today's webinar. We've kind of set the stage a little bit. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the organizational challenges that companies today are facing. And we've talked a little bit about that already with Justin, and we're going to carry on. Talk about how it can be utilized for sales automation, which is, of course, different than for things like customer support or customer success. And then, as Justin was just alluding to, bots versus humans. What does it mean? Is that going to be, I'm just kind of curious, where is that going to go? Which leads to the future. What should we expect? And then we'll kind of bring it back full circle on best practices that you can implement and utilize now if this is something either you're looking to deploy or something you have deployed, but you want to take it to the next level. So those are what we're talking about today. Let's bring it on to the organizational challenges first. So a couple stats we got here. Forrester, 56% of B2B buyers want to self-educate on products and services. So if they want to self-educate and you don't have chat, what's left? Your website, and that works. It's a one-way push. Hopefully you've got it right. But if you haven't addressed that, then if you haven't, I guess, anticipated what they're going to ask, what they're looking for, then they're a high probability they're going to bounce. Where the chat then allows that more dynamic, what is it you want, what are you looking for? So 56% self-serve. That's huge. Next one, organizational challenges. Sales reps are physically, some might say, wasting their time trying to qualify leads that are a bad fit. So Justin, let me go to you on that one. Is the premise that because I'm going to self-serve and I'm working through the bot, I can myself determine if I'm a good fit or a bad fit, and therefore if I deem myself a bad fit, I bounce, and if I deem myself a good fit, soon enough the bot will bring in the live rep as opposed to the actual script? Like, what's the thought process there?
Sure. I think clearly you've laid out a great case for lead qualification, and so many sales reps today, in marketing, it depends on, how the process is orchestrated internally by organization, but, they're spending so many cycles on initial conversations with unqualified leads. So I think even to the core, chat creates this soft landing where, you provide a method that allows privacy or hesitant focused buyers to even connect. So you're capturing leads at the top end of the funnel that you may not capture if you just had a web submission form, if you just had an email or a phone number. So ultimately, it allows you to capture a greater market share for people interested in your company. But yes, the bot aspect, that's, again, we'll talk about this in a minute when we get to that section, but creating enough bots where you allow folks to garner the information they need or to help qualify themselves based upon the product they're interested in, based upon your industry, but not too much where you have them spinning in cycles and they're not getting to the question or the pain point that they're looking for. So making sure that you have outs throughout the bot process, that if they want to talk to a human, they have the ability to initiate that and talk to a sales rep when they are interested. So
actually, I have a question for you on that one. Because a lot of the bots, they're qualifying, right? They're asking a question like, do you have a problem with A, B, or C? I have a problem with A, right? Really? And how big is your company? And, what vertical are you in? And whatever it might be. Do you find, has it been your experience that users are more inclined to answer those questions because they almost feel like they're having a conversation, but it's on their terms, as opposed to a live rep or a form where it's a bunch of drop-down boxes, and the form itself can be intimidating because he sees there's 5 or 10 questions. They're like, oh, I'm not starting this. But in a chatbot, they're going to present it one at a time like you would in a live conversation. Do you see that the reps get better qualified information compared to those other channels?
If the bot is configured appropriately, yes, but buyers sit on both sides of the aisle, right? Some people are intimidated by the bot and they're used to having a chat conversation with a human, and therefore they may be turned off. You have other aspects on the other side that they want to self-qualify. They enjoy the bot experience. They like clicking the chat bubbles and walking through, their profile and their particular needs and getting more information as they're looking at different vendors. So I think the key is, and again, every vendor struggles with this, and every business struggles with the correct scale on the spectrum of enough bot but not too much, and always providing that exit where at some point in time, if they are qualified and they want to talk to a person because they're ready to buy or they're ready to make a big decision, you want to make sure that you have the sales rep available for that.
So talk to me.
That answer your question?
Yeah, it does answer the question. And a lot of this, it's ironic because if you're listening to this and you haven't deployed it, Justin's kind of sharing some data that you might almost miss it. Because I've deployed chat multiple times, I know exactly what he's getting at. Let me clarify because this is really important. He made a point of saying if you have the right scripted, and interaction. And in fact, many times when I did it, we didn't. And we actually indirectly caused people to bounce because we were asking, from their point of view, stupid questions, right? And I'll give you an example. Maybe it's asking a question and the person doesn't want to answer. I just don't want to do it. And they do something like, human, operator, something, right? And the bot doesn't clue in that it's looking for a sign saying, I don't want to talk to you. I want to talk to a real person. If that doesn't happen, then they bounce, which is weird because they're actually telling you they want to talk to a live person, but they don't want to pick up a phone. But they want answers now and they want it through the chat. So another thing we're having, when we initially did it, we thought we'd do it for sales, right? And what we found, because we're a SaaS vendor ourselves, and people would come to our site to log into their instance of VanillaSoft, was that a lot of people are actually coming to us for support. So the chat would come up and it's like, hey, do you have a problem? And they're like, yes, I do. And blah, blah, blah. And before long, they would bounce because they're like, you realize they were already a customer. So we had to go back multiple times and continue to revise the script to say, are you looking for support with, product knowledge and education or customer support or whatever? Oh, support. Boom. Okay, now we can route you. That context is critical. If you get it wrong, it costs you traffic. How often do you see that, Justin? How often are you seeing people screw that part up? Because it sounds so simple and so sexy, but I guess it's no different than a sales rep being on the phone and screwing up the conversation with the customer. We can do the exact same mistakes in chat.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, as a matter of fact, I was with an ABM company in Atlanta yesterday, and that was their big challenge, as well as, you see it online all over the place of sales is getting inundated with support conversations. It's great for the customer, great for the business, but making sure that the chat technology has the ability to route it to support and not inundate sales with, conversations that they may not be adept to answer is critical. And some of it could be a deficiency in the technology not having the routing capabilities. Some of it is the script or the flow of how the bot could be set up, but completely agree. Almost every conversation that we have in the market, we hear from customers having the delineation, the ability to route to the appropriate department based upon need is paramount. So yeah, you hit the nail on the head with that one.
One of the things I know I've heard a lot about is people are often looking to a bot to say, is a bot a solution for a problem I have, like the following. A lot of the questions I get, whether they be sales questions or support questions, are the same. Over and over again, they're the same. If it's a sales question, could be like, how much do you cost? What's your price? Right? Or if it's a support question, could be, I forgot my password. Whatever, I need to reset. And that becomes a drain on the organization because they need to staff accordingly for the influx of emails or phone calls. Are chatbots a possible solution to reduce that burden somehow?
As it relates to use cases with the specialization of some of these immature bots today in the market, and we'll talk about a bot versus a true AI chatbot, that is the absolute best deployment of a bot today. And Gartner states that by 2022, 16% of all consumer tasks will be fully automated, whereas in 2018, it was 6%. So I think it just proves that from a bot perspective, from a use case, answering simple questions, product questions, support, booking meetings, doing some of those repetitive, mundane tasks It's an exceptional use case of a bot. I think it's probably the best use case today based upon where much of the technology exists. As we move closer to true AI, again, I think it opens up use case potentials and value to the underlying customer or prospect. But well, I know we're going to get to that at some point, so I won't steal any thunder. So.
You can steal thunder. That just means we just get to that point and move on real fast. Let's move on and talk about some of the use cases. You mentioned use cases. So let's just start with sales automation. So what are some of the, this is completely open-ended. What do I know? If I'm thinking of, I want to do, I think I want to do chatbots, or I have invested in chatbots. Maybe I haven't fully deployed it yet, but my number one goal was to improve sales, to drive leads. So what do I need to know if that's my number one goal? What maybe mistakes should I avoid, or how should I configure it? Is this a viable solution for sales automation? And above all, help manage my expectations. What is realistic for me to expect when it comes to a chatbot helping the process? Because it can only, it'll never, let's just say in the near term, it's not going to replace a human. So share with me your thoughts and your lessons on that front.
Sure. No, great question. First and foremost, I would make sure that the deployment includes both the bot capability as well as live chat. Some vendors in the market focus on one or the other. So make sure you give the customer
stop there. What is a bot and what is a live chat in that analogy, in that piece of guidance?
Sure. So within a website chat, and we'll talk about offsite chat at some point, but within website chat, within the metaphor, the iframe, companies have the ability to present the customer, the website visitor, with a bot that's responding for the human based upon the scripts or the flow that they want to do to capture the lead or talk to the customer. There are vendors in the market that just do bots, schedule a meeting, answer a quick question, and then kind of stop from there. But they don't specialize in the live chat aspect of how do I take that website visitor and direct it to a particular sales rep, a support rep, based upon that need. So making sure that you're reducing friction in the process is paramount, right? That's why that's why chat is so prevalent today. It reduces friction in the process. It prevents people from having to fill out forms or send an email. They can engage right away. So just making sure that the capabilities, if you are deploying chat, has a bot as well as live chat, and then buffeting it back based upon the use case or product line becomes an art.
Do you recommend that if you're going to deploy this, you deploy a platform that gives you both capabilities, both the bot to automate some of the rinse and repeat stuff, like, I forgot my password or what's your price based on scripts, as well as the live chat? Or if I had to start in one spot, bot or live chat, where do you suggest we go?
Quite honestly, I think you need to have both. I think you have to have both options for the consumer. Otherwise, you're just going to create a very frustrating experience, and nobody wants frustrated customers or prospects. They're going to go to the competition or, go hang out with the kids or mow the lawn, right? If you're creating that friction, you're making it difficult. You're defeating the purpose of chat. So having both options is important. And we always suggest, start small. Make the gate very minute in the beginning. Make it small, and then if you have too much volume, if you're inundated, your sales reps are getting too many chats that are unqualified, start to build out the gate, start to provide more bots, more response, more automation until you get to the right point. So, start small, route to the, because at the end of the day, people want to talk to salespeople. If they're wanting to chat, if they're interested in your product and they have questions, chat is just a very uncommitted, a very easy way for them to do that. And that's typically what they expect when they click on that icon on your website.
So one of the areas I guess I would think about, there could be, multiple areas of points of failure. So number one, in my experience, is you start off with a bot where it's going through its script, is asking the right questions to kind of get some initial answers. That could be determined, is this person here for support or for sales or for something else? Or does this person want to talk about product A or product B? You mentioned the word routing, and that's what effectively you're getting at. And then eventually the bot gets so far and it says, okay, now I need to pass it off to Susie in sales, or the next available rep in sales. Yet those reps may be working the phones. I don't know. I'm talking out loud here. So that handoff may attempt to happen, but does the rep miss it because they're multitasking, or do they take too long to get to it and they lose it? Like, to me, that seems to be the first point of failure. Is that a fair point? And if so, how do I address that?
Great question. So you may have heard in the market the chat players moving into chat and messaging, and that's a big component, right? If you're on a website visitor, if a rep's not available or they want to talk to someone, having the ability for the visitor to be able to message, either if someone's away or if you get to a certain point in the bot where you want to speak to someone, that's kind of the box of the messaging component of chatting. And then if I need to send a message if someone's unavailable or I want someone to reach back out, that's important. The other aspect too is sophistication in the chat technology itself. So if an SDR or an inside salesperson or an AE is on a phone call or they're busy, they're at lunch, if they don't get to the chat appropriately, some of the high-end chat vendors have rollover or fail safes where it goes to another team member in a couple seconds, it then pops up a message or it re-engages the bot. So having a chat technology that's sophisticated enough to account for those variables is critical to capturing the greatest amount of leads and making happy customers. So,
all right. So the next point of failure I can anticipate, and I'm just trying to understand kind of where does chatbots and live chat end and the other tools in a sales and marketing tech stack, kind of pick up, which is, okay, the handoff is made from the chatbot to the live sales rep. And now they're messaging back and forth with the individual, and they're asking maybe now more sophisticated questions, more granular, and looking for deeper answers from the sales development rep. Yeah. Is it appropriate that I would expect the platform that I chose to power the chat to provide scripts or additional content or resources so that when the sales rep is now responding in the chat window, that they know they can cut and paste, or they know what to say, or they can share content, or they can point them to links, or should I expect that's more of a sales enablement solution or some kind of content management solution, and they have to go back and forth? Like, what should I expect from to manage that part on the sales automation?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is kind of the other side of the fence, right? From a functionality perspective for my reps, for the organization, marketing, whomever, customer support, professional services who's using the chat, providing technology or means to push information, data, attachment links through the chat window or the chat metaphor. So you'll see you've got some vendors that are on the forefront of that, where they want to be, the website, resources, blogs, best practices, training videos are all being displayed through the chat window. That's fairly new recently. And you have some other folks that feel like, the chat window is just for communication, right? We don't want to inundate them with too much complexity within the chat window or iframe. So I think the best option is to give the buyer the capability to choose which way they want to communicate. And I think it's by page, it's by website navigation. If someone's on the blog or resources area, maybe that makes sense from a situational awareness perspective to start to push them some content. If based upon how they're navigating on the site, maybe that link or that testimonial or that snippet of content may be the difference from keeping them engaged and wanting to talk to someone versus losing them out of the funnel. So like most things in most industries, there's two trains of thought. And we are seeing more of the industry push towards having everything within that chat iframe. It's like almost like a whole web page within itself.
All right. So my stereotypical belief or assumption is that chat is an inbound process. I have somehow found your website, whether it was an AdWord or it was an article or whatever it was, and I've ended up there, and there's a chat window, and I've come in and I'm chatting.
Yep.
But I've got an entire sales team that can also do proactive outbound selling. Does it exist today? And I'm not sure how this would look for sales on an outbound fashion. I'm thinking phone or email or social media. Those are top of mind outbound activities to utilize chat. Does that exist? And if so, how so?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. It's one of the things, and I'm not going to talk much about Ramble today, but it's something that I'm passionate about, and I think the market's going. When you look at sales engagement, when you look at outbound, email, phone, um, chat is becoming that third channel of communication. It's a third medium. So we have a patent pending technology that does just that. It's being able to take chat and move it beyond the website. And the whole premise is meet buyers at the moment of interest. You need website chat. There will always be a place for website chat. But what if you could take chat, make it outbound, and push the chat engagement to where your buyers are versus having to force them to do unnatural things? So, putting chat links and buttons within email, within a social post, within an ad. I think you're going to see the market go towards that more and more, because at the end of the day, chat is all about shortening the sales cycle, eliminating friction, making it easier for the prospects and the customers. So.
All right, so let's move on to another use case. Let's move on to the flip, which is customer support, maybe customer success. We'll focus on support, I guess. So a couple stats for context, right? The stats say that after one negative experience, 51% of customers will never do business with that company again. I mean, I know I'm harsh, but that's really harsh. Wow. But then that's
not a lot of grace there.
Not a lot of grace there. No, exactly. But that's from the customer's point of view. Now flip it around, right? Because support is really a two-way street. I mean, I want to support you, but the flip is some of my agents are taking 200 calls a day, and they're just they're maxed. So from the support provider, the vendor's point of view, it's like, I want to provide killer support, but I just don't know if I can. I'm not sure how. So how some people have done this historically, right, is they've created the ubiquitous knowledge base, or the FAQ, where you can go in and find all those common answers to those common questions. So do I really need support? I'm sorry, do I really need chat or a chat bot or a live chat if I've got this FAQ or this knowledge base? Is it more effective?
It is. It's for many reasons. And one, the customer support chat space is more mature than any aspect of chat, right? Sales and marketing chat, up to a few years ago, was really an unknown thing. People used it, but buyers were not accustomed to using chatbots to talking to sales through chat. So I think the maturity of the customer support aspect is far greater. Bots are far more valuable right now in customer support, especially as you get into the AI component. We'll talk about that here in a few minutes, of having a knowledge base, not just on an FAQ, but within the actual communication window, where I can ask questions and the bot can respond to questions and inquiries and information directly within one medium, is extremely valuable. I think one study says that live chat for customer support has a 48% decrease in customer care costs. So you have the cost aspect, and then a 95% peak in customer satisfaction. So there's a lot of information, empirical data, studies that validate having a customer support chat bot, or just chat in general.
Well, I think most of us probably got exposed to the live chat, years ago. It's not a new technology in that regard on the support sites where it made sense, right? It's only recently in the last couple of years gotten more and more prolific. So if I'm a company looking to manage my support costs, you alluded to this, is live chat and those chatbots, if I implement that properly, can I theoretically reduce my staff, or at least keep my current staff status quo for a while? And does that in fact allow me to, I guess, optimize my staff? Because done properly, the chat can handle a lot of the mundane stuff over and over again. And then when it gets more sophisticated, it can pass it over to a live person. Is that a fair statement?
No, you're exactly right. Yeah, the value proposition on chat within customer support and bots, with the reduction of call centers and outsourcing and staffing, is significant. I mean, to be able to have mundane, repetitive questions answered by a computer, by a bot, or by an AI chatbot, not only gives the customer a better experience, but the staffing, the overhead, the FTEs, it's a significant reduction for the actual company. And as I get to that point, you start to re-envision and reorganize the entire support department. It opens up whole new parameters for just workflow, efficiency, on time, uptime. So Yeah, one of the reasons it's more mature, and one of the reasons AI chatbots are more prevalent within that area because of the ROI and the return.
So just like when I was asking about the sales side, the sales enablement and scripts and all that wonderful stuff, I'm thinking, where does the line end between chat and historical support, where maybe when I call in or whatever, or have an email conversation, they say, let's have a live meeting where we can talk face to face, or let me take over control of your computer. Is that something that can be facilitated through live chat as well?
It can. So one study says that 8 out of 10 customers prefer messaging and chat post-sale. So something to note. But secondly, some technologies have the ability to chat through the chat window, and then do what you call an escalation or transfer. So having the ability to have a chat conversation and then elevate it or escalate it over the phone directly from your mobile phone, from the actual chat instance. So that's becoming a more popular feature this day and age.
All right. So if you're listening so far, again, in the chat window, ironically, send your messages and we'll respond to that. But we're just trying to go through some of the different ways that we can physically utilize it, and where it might benefit, where there could be a cost benefit for you or a positive impact on your customer experience or on your prospect experience. Because clearly it's all about, CX, customer experience, which is from a prospect all the way to, a recurring repeat customer over and over again. So this is part of a strategy that may make sense to you. But I'm going to move on, because the next slide talks a little bit about bots versus humans. And Justin, you alluded to this a few times. You've dropped in the old artificial intelligence. I haven't heard you mention machine learning. We'll wait and talk a bit about that. And you're actually, I've heard you make a distinction between bots and humans. So again, let's just go back. What is the future of the bot versus the humans? Will the bot, through the advent of artificial intelligence, replace the human? I mean, you tell me. He's smiling. He's had this question before. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I can tell.
Yeah. Just this morning too. So I think there's a big misconception. There's a ton of market confusion, and vendors do a really good job of creating confusion in the market, right? But there's this big misconception of people labeling a bot, a traditional chat bot, with a true AI chatbot. I would say that the majority of vendors, most vendors, do not have AI chatbots. When you get into AI, as you mentioned, you're getting into machine learning, algorithms, natural language understanding, natural language processing, the ability to really review conversation and make intelligent decisions with a reply. Most of the bots in the market are more rudimentary bots, where you have a workflow, where you have scripts. They select this, I then insert this. So there's a ton of confusion in the market where people will label something as AI, when in reality it's just a bot or just a standard chatbot. So that's something that we're constantly trying to educate folks on when they come to us, or we at a speaking event or conference, and people say, well, love that AI chatbot. It wasn't quite AI, but there's a big distinction between the two.
And there is a huge distinction too. And even with AI, what people often forget is, for AI to work, it needs a large sample size, right? So
very large.
For someone like a Google or an Amazon, as an example, right, with all their e-commerce and all their devices deployed globally, they have that sample size to farm. But let's say you've got 100 or 1,000 or 2,000 customers. It's going to take a long time for you to build up the sample size where it's statistically meaningful enough for it to be able to optimize itself. So it's almost like, AI is a little bit of, it sounds sexy, but it's kind of like buyer beware.
Great marketing buzzword.
It's a great marketing buzzword. All right, so let's segue. This is probably a nice segue to the future. Now, what I want to do here is I want to show a clip that happened last year that got the industry all abuzz. And it's not about a chat bot, but it is about, the growth of the machine in interacting with a human. If you haven't heard of this, it's a product that Google put out there, and the responses were interesting when it happened. It's called Google Duplex. So maybe we can roll that video and see. It's only about a minute long, but we'll watch it.
So how can I help you?
Hi, I'm calling to book a women's haircut for a client. I'm looking for something on May 3rd.
That
Sure.
person on the left,
One
that's a
second.
Google bot.
Sure. What time are you looking for around?
At 12 p.m.
We do not have a 12 p.m. available. The closest we have to that is a 1:15.
Do you have anything between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m.?
Depending on what service she would like. What service is she looking for?
Just a woman's haircut for now.
Okay, we have a 10 o'clock.
10 a.m. is fine.
Okay, what's her first name?
The first name is Lisa.
Okay, perfect. So I will see Lisa at 10 o'clock on May 3rd.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Great. Have a great day. Bye.
So Google showed that last year at one of their events, and in this, of course, everybody was like, "Wow!" And what I find so cool about what I saw there was a couple things, right? You saw fillers, You saw other fillers, You saw uptalk. They're asking a question. Do you have anything available between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m.? And it was in real time in the response to what a human was providing. And the flip is the human was unaware that they were talking to a non-human. So immediately everybody starts to say in our industry, is this the death of the inside or the sales development rep? Because now everything's just going to be a Google. And of course the answer is no, at least not in the near term that I'm aware of. But that's what I bring forward to you. If I talk to you, Justin, and if I see this technology, do we anticipate this will make its way to the websites soon? Will this make its way into those other sales channels, email or otherwise, soon? What do you see? Mr. Prognosticator, put on your magic hat and tell me what you're seeing.
Let me first say, when I first saw that clip from Google, I remember thinking, okay, this is a real person on the left, and at some point they're going to show how Google AI can, streamline the conversation better. So I'm always blown away when I see that was actually the AI, that's the human voice. So I think that's where the market's going. I think the convergence of voice, video, and chat as it relates to AI are going to become more important across the different channels. I think we're a little ways off. I spoke to a CEO of a company, AI company here in Atlanta that has AI that was actually rivaling IBM Watson Assistant. They're doing things that don't require inputs and intent, which I think is the next step for AI. A lot of these machine learning require intent and a lot of human input. So I think we're ways off. I think it's going to get better and progress. But I think from a true AI perspective, machine learning, the technology needs to step up a little bit as it relates to text, as it relates to chat, before I think it makes its way, into our day-to-day lives from a sales engagement perspective.
I think the thing that struck me about that whole demo, the first time I saw it, I was like, wow.
Yeah, it was impressive.
It was impressive, right? But it was the ethics, if you will, around, because they were representing to be a human. And Google quickly had to actually, in the end, initially they were like, wow. And then, the days afterwards, they had to backtrack. They had to make some adjustments so that they were kind of saying, disclosing, they were recommending a disclosure that this was not a real person that you're talking to. I'm just a machine on behalf of so-and-so. And I think that's, that's also part of the future as you struggle with that. All right, let's go on our next slide and we'll start to bring this puppy home. For our audience today who are considering this, let's talk about some best practices. So the first thing I would look at is, if I wanted to justify the investment in this, are there any best practices or tips and tricks you can give our audience today that they should factor in or consider or put forth as part of their business case?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think chat is, a year ago, the market was very different. I think we're getting to the point where chat is just an expectation as it relates to the sales tech stack. It's finally getting to that point, which is great for the market. But, different vendors, different organizations, different companies require a little more justification and ROI. I think the ability to capture an audience at the top end of the funnel is just a strong parameter for why chat is critical. Shortening the sales cycle. And I think deploying it smartly, having that situational awareness, that intentionality to gauge feedback from your customers, from your prospects on the actual experience. continuing to refine how chat is deployed, how it makes sense. But I think the studies, the buyer expectations, the need for instant gratification, I think it only legitimizes chat. And I think it's going to get to the point where like CRM and sales engagement will do less justification for why it's needed. And I think it's just assumed that you have to have it. So.
From my point of view, if I was giving advice, I would say, what's the cost of churn, right? Of a customer leaving. You heard the stat about one negative support experience, 51% bail. I'm not working with you again. So, done properly, that can actually improve the customer experience. You're giving them another option to interact with. From a business point of view, how much does it cost to build your staff or to train your staff, especially if there's answering repetitive questions over and over again? So from a staffing point of view, that's an easy ROI. From a customer satisfaction, that can be huge as long as you implement the scripts right. So that's maybe a next segue. When it comes to actually approaching the implementation, is there any kind of counsel or advice you can give?
That's a good question. I think every vendor is struggling with this. Even the biggest one with the bot vendors, they're having more and more frustration with the deployment. And I think you're seeing a whole industry churn up around consulting, bot consulting, bot configuration, because it's a science and an art to make sure you have the right experience. So I think being intentional, thinking for the customer. I think too many companies at times say, well, this is going to save us this amount of times and unqualified leads. This is going to save us staffing for customer support. We're going to have, satisfaction through the roof. Be empathetic, put yourself in the perspective of your customer, of your buyer. And I think you'll find that connecting humans becomes more and more attractive than bots because there can be some challenges with that. But I think seek, the company and some of their best practices, some of their learnings from their implementations. There's a lot of great consultants out there that do sophisticated bot deployments and AI. And listen to the customer. Be aware, listen to the customer. And at the end of the day, every chat bot deployment is industry and product specific. There is no one size fits all.
I'd actually suggest, based on my own personal experience, if you can afford it,
please
factor in your budget for a consultant, because in the end, you may say there's an additional hit there up front, which there is. I acknowledge that. But if that gets you deployed correctly and you avoid the mistakes that you would make by rolling it yourself, because you're not going to make those mistakes intentionally, you're not going to do it maliciously, but you are going to do it. And there will be an initial price and consequence. If you can avoid that and learn from people who have done this before and then build upon their victories and their lessons learned, that is the fastest way to an ROI, which is really what you're doing this for. So short-term pain, long-term gain.
Well,
all right. What about for user adoption? If I'm sitting here and I'm working the phones and the emails or social media now, and all of a sudden this comes in, am I viewing this as competition, or am I viewing this as another thing I have to focus on when I'm doing my job and I'm already going crazy? Or am I viewing this as something that's going to make my life better?
Sure. So I think like any technology, any project, having executive support and a sponsor is critical, right? If you have the folks from above explaining how important chat is, the benefits of the business, how it can help not only sales and support, but the overall growth and pipeline contribution, I think having that executive support is critical, because at the end of the day, people will be responding to chats. They will be panning for gold. You may get inundated with unqualified leads, but the effort it's worth it. The lead contribution pipeline will come. What, I forgot the rest of your question. I went on that tangent there. Remind me again what you just said. Being
the
real
whole
and
point
upfront
was,
right now, right?
It's all good. It's all good. Tell you what, instead of answering that question, let's jump to our closing slide where we hopefully have a wonderful picture of you and you look all handsome, and we hopefully have some content information there for you. There you go, right on the screen, Justin's email. We're going to bring this puppy home. If you have any questions for me and my experience having deployed it, having used it, if you have any experience, questions for Justin, both, he's a technology expert. He knows it. He's seen all the mistakes made. Then reach out to either one of us. So that's that information. You're invited to do that. Next, I'm kind of going to bring it back to you, Justin. If people wanted to learn more about you, maybe they want to learn more about Ramble Chat because you've piqued their interest, where should they go?
Sure. I appreciate that. Just ramblechat.com is our corporate website. There's quite a bit there. We specialize on helping companies do website chat as well as taking chat beyond the website, so meeting buyers at the moment of interest. So I appreciate that plug, and there's quite a bit of information on our blog as well as ramblechat.com.
I love it. So what you saw today, folks, was Justin, in his true natural state, trying to help you guys out because, hey, that's what we're all about here at VanillaSoft University, trying to explore the issues, explore the technologies, explain it, educate you, learn best practices, and then carry the conversation on online. So we want to carry this online. You've got our email addresses, but don't be shy. Go on LinkedIn. We're quite active there. Go on Twitter. We'll carry that conversation on there too. And let other people contribute to the conversation, just like happened when I did my promotional video for this webinar. Fantastic conversation and back and forth just in the comments alone. That's what it's all about. We're a community, folks. We're a tribe. We support each other. That's what we do. So for more information, you can check Justin out at ramblechat.com. Thank you for your time today, sir. I'm so grateful.
Thank you, Daryl. Enjoyed it. He's
very polite, isn't he? Gotta love that Southern charm. And then for myself, I'm Daryl Prale. Follow me on LinkedIn. Follow me on Twitter. I am with VanillaSoft. VanillaSoft.com, the world's #1 sales engagement platform. We hope you enjoyed today's conversation on everything to do with live chat, chatbots, and everything in between. In the meantime, for more resources, go to VanillaSoft.com. We shall talk to you soon. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.